spending on the part of both nations. It's been argued that the increased military spending by the United States, for which it now, ironically, faces its own financial deficits, helped expedite the Soviet Union's economic collapse as they attempted to keep up. Much of that military first introduced to the Soviet Air Forces in 1974, the Su-24 was designed as a supersonic jet that could be used in all-weather conditions. It boasts a twin-engine, variable sweep wing design as well as a twin-seat arrangement with seats side by side for two pilots. It has seen extensive combat usage during its lifespan, with notable engagements being its use on the Soviet side of the Soviet-Afghan War, as well as the Russian side of the First Chechen War. It's remained in service with the Russian Air Force since 1991, as well as other former Soviet air forces, including that of the Ukraine and Azerbaijan. It's eventually intended to be phased out completely in favor of another Sukhoi craft, the Su-35. Sukhoi Su-25. A follow-up to the Su-24, the Su-25 offered much of the same with a few improvements. The fighter jet was first introduced to the Soviet Air Forces as a prototype in 1975, received testing in 1978 in Tbilisi, and entered active service in 1981. As with its predecessor, the Su-25 has seen its fair share of active usage. It was used fairly extensively in the Soviet-Afghan War, launching more than 100 missile strikes. It was also used on the Iraqi side of the Iran-Iraq War, where they were extremely effective, losing only one craft. The 90s once again saw the Iraqi Air Force employ the Su-25 against coalition forces during the Gulf War. Russia, meanwhile, employed the Su-25 in hundreds of engagements against the Chechen separatists in the 90s and the 2000s during the First and Second Chechen Wars. Sukhoi Su-27. First introduced in 1985, this entry into the Su line of fighter jets was sold to China, where it was licensed and developed into the Shenyang J-11, which remained in service since 1999. Ukraine also inherited Su-27s following the collapse of the Soviet Union. However, they didn't choose to modernize the craft for contemporary use and have largely retired the craft. Russia, meanwhile, has continued to use the craft regularly. It was deployed during a conflict with Georgia in 1992. Russia has used a modernized version of the craft, the Su-27 SM-3, in its military intervention in the Syrian civil war. Sukhoi Su-30. This offering from Sukhoi was developed in the late 1980s during the last years of the Soviet Union and eventually entered service after the dissolution of the USSR as a part of the Russian Air Force. In 1997, a variant, the Su-30 MKK, was produced for the Chinese use in the People's Liberation Army Air Force. Another variant, the Su-MKM, was produced for Malaysia, while another, the Su-30KI, was developed for use by the Indian Air Force. Russia has continued to use the Su-30 in military active use, notably in 2015 during its aforementioned intervention in the Syrian civil war, conducting strikes designed to assist Bashar al-Assad. Sukhoi Su-34. This craft first flew as a prototype in 1990, just a year before the dissolution of the USSR, the breakup of which led to development being delayed for a long period of time. The Su-34 made its debut in the Russian Air Force in 2014. This is yet another craft that's seen usage on the Syrian-Russian side of the Syrian civil war. It's also been employed against ISIS, with reports of strikes in the Hama region. Unlike the Su-27, the Su-34 is not seen as much operation by foreign entities. However, Algeria has recently been rumored to have become the first foreign buyer and operator of the Su-34, though this has not been confirmed. Sukhoi Su-35. Another example of a late 80s fighter jet developed by Sukhoi during the final years of the Soviet Union. This fourth-generation jet saw its first use in 2014, more than 15 years after it was first conceived. As with other Su fighter jets, the Su-35 has been used for active combat during Russia's involvement in the Syrian civil war. The Russian Air Force has currently stationed several Su-35s at Khmeimim Air Base in Syria. Despite its developmental delays, the Su-35 has gone on to be exported to several air forces around the world, with Algeria, Indonesia, and China all ordering it. Sukhoi Su-57. Old rivalries die hard, and the United States and Russia remain in a military arms race, with the development of fifth-generation fighter jets being a key front in that competition. Our final Sukhoi fighter jet is intended to be Russia's answer to the United States Air Force's highly touted fifth-generation aircraft. The Su-57 will be the first Russian aircraft to have stealth capabilities. It will also feature a great deal of speed and maneuverability. The aircraft was made ready for the Russian government in 2019. It's set to make its first flight as an active fighter jet in the Russian Air Force in 2020. Mikoyan MiG-29. We now move into the other big name in Russian aeronautics, Mikoyan MiG. In keeping with the theme of competition between the US and USSR, the MiG-29s were originally developed in the late 70s and introduced in